Are police under-resourced and or not doing enough around what seems like a spike in criminal behaviour? And I haven't even mentioned the word ram raids yet. Now the Police Commissioner, Andrew Costa, is back with us. A very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Have you had your meeting with Mark Mitchell yet?
We're doing it this afternoon.
Oh, fantastic. Got lots to talk about?
Yeah, look, we'll give him a rundown on policing generally and whatever he wants to cover, absolutely.
As far as the shootings go, let's start with the shootings in Auckland in the last couple of weeks. Where are you at with those? I've got about 14 drive-by shootings. How many arrests, how many weapons, how much ammunition have you rounded up?
Yeah, so we've arrested 7 people. We have executed 10 search warrants on these groups that are connected. We've recovered so far 4 firearms and 250 rounds of ammunition.
How many charges?
10 charges.
And so that will take how long to process through a court, and what will happen, do you think, to those people?
Yeah, well, we need to be clear. Those charges relate to a range of offences. What we have been doing with these groups is targeting any unlawful behaviour we can find in order to send them a message about their behaviour. The charges that we have relating to firearms relate to possession of those firearms, so we're still investigating a range of offences in terms of the actual shootings themselves.
Does it astonish you how much weaponry is out there?
Not really, to be honest, Mike. We've got, we think, about 1.5 million firearms in this country, and we're dealing with decades of lax gun control. So we've got now the legislation and the funding necessary to tighten up. But overseas experience suggests that takes a long time. So in the meantime, unfortunately, we have criminals with firearms, and our option is to target them and their behaviour while we work on tightening up the overall gun control.
Those arrests you mentioned a moment ago, by the way, for the shootings, all gangs?
Yeah, so those are arrests for people connected with the group. I need to be clear, they're not necessarily arrests for shootings. They are arrests for whatever offences we could identify as we target them.
So they got to do some shooting, but they didn't necessarily get charged for that? Because you can't prove it.
We're still investigating. We're still, you think about the context of a shooting.
Sure,
you drive past the house, you fire shots, and you drive off. So finding the evidence to link people to the shooting is a lot harder than linking them to a firearm that they were in possession of, and so that's where we're starting.
But all of these people are gang-related, right?
Yeah, obviously, across those shootings, we suspect that most of them are linked to this tit-for-tat that we're seeing between these two groups. You need to remember that neither the offenders nor the victims are that cooperative in this situation, and so proving that out can be a challenge.
In general, how many of these people for this sort of activity and gang-related tit-for-tat, as you put it, end up in jail? In other words, you solve the problem.
A decent, for this level of violence, jail is a highly likely outcome. And so that's good when we apprehend people. But I suppose, the challenge we have here with these groups is you're not just talking about one or two people having a go at each other. And so we also need to de-escalate the violence. And that's a combination of us targeting them until they get sick of it and pull their heads in, frankly, and also looking for opportunities to de-escalate the original tension if we can. So
you, in essence, negotiate with them, don't you?
No, we don't. We do try to, where we can, encourage them to a space where they agree not to do this anymore. And the dynamic with these things is people on both sides of this fight are going to be living in fear as all of this plays out. And so there is a natural incentive for them to want to resolve it, but our job is to target them as best we can. And if there's an opportunity to bring a de-escalation between warring groups, then we'll take it.
What is it you tell people whose house gets sprayed up with bullets and it wasn't quite the right house, and so they're living in a neighbourhood or a house or an area that they're just fearful for their lives? Why should...
No,
what do you say to those people?
It is outrageous, and I feel for those people. It's an absolutely horrific situation to be in. That's why we are deploying as much resources necessary to this to apply the pressure necessary to bring these groups back into line.
You talked about resource from the government and this gun register. Do you honestly believe a gun register, something that is requiring honest people to register their gun, that somehow is going to solve a problem for a person who isn't remotely interested in the law or the police or anything else? How's that going to fix that problem?
There's one key my commission helps, and it's that when you buy a firearm as a licence holder, you are going to be accountable for still having that firearm unless you can prove a lawful sale. Unfortunately, we have identified many instances of people who have obtained firearms licences, no reason for them not to, no convictions, etc., but they have decided to on-sell them to gang members for profit. And at the moment, there aren't the checks and balances to prevent that from happening.
Right.
So that's where we register ourselves.
What will happen to that person under the new system?
Well, absolutely, they will be prosecuted if they can't, explain a disposal of their firearm, and obviously where we recover firearms and are able to prove their provenance, and we can also hold them accountable for the fact that it was found in the hands of a gang member or whatever it might be.
As regards America, just quickly, do we have a ghost gun issue in this country like the Americans do?
I think that's a real risk for the future. We've only seen a few instances of that so far. 3D printing clearly is a risk area. It's an area where we'll be providing advice to government on how we can control, those future developments.
Right. Is there something that you as Commissioner, as you look at all of this, and you must be very cognizant of the way the community feels at the moment and the perception, whether it's reality or not, I don't know, but is there a magic thing that you don't have? Is there something that you want or need that you could materially change the way we're all feeling right now about crime and violence that would help?
It's a question I ask myself every day, and I wish there was a magic wand. After 2 years of COVID policing, we're now able to refocus on our core business, and that is going to make a difference. We need to acknowledge and realise that COVID has aggravated a whole lot of underlying issues we had, be it truancy, the problems in our town centres as we vacated them and left them to whoever was left. Those problems are going to take some time to unpick. We will get back to where we were, I believe, but we have had a real setback in the last 2 years.
Do you subscribe in any way, shape or form to the research we're seeing at the moment? Is the harder people were locked down, the more they react badly now?
Look, there's no doubt that communities are under pressure. We see it in family violence, we see it in mental health. Our youth offending is a reflection of kids who haven't re-engaged in school. We are going to have some longer-term consequences from COVID. Absolutely, we are. I think everyone feels that. So it plays into every part of police's business in some way.
Interesting insight. Appreciate your time very much, Andrew Costa, Police Commissioner this morning.